The Vancouver Canucks make a recall from Abbotsford after a recent struggle, and we might see multiple changes coming to the team. We're going to break down this and more later on this episode. Before we start, I just want to give a huge shout out to the almost 5,000 of you. If you're enjoying the content and you want to subscribe, make sure to go down and hit the subscribe button, as we'll be covering the Canucks for the rest of the season into next offseason. With that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is the Canucks recall Erik Brännström. Now, Erik Brännström's a name that not a lot of people know about, but he was the one that was traded for in the Tucker-Pullman trade. Now, with this, we do see Gaffer go out and say, sounds like the Canucks are recalling Erik Brännström and he's coming to Florida. Played in 2 games with Abbotsford and after being acquired in a trade with Colorado. Now with Brännström, a lot of people might see this guy as a small defenseman, but the biggest thing with Brännström is how well he can skate and how well he can break out of the zone. Just from this clip, you can see him dangle past some defenders. He didn't score from this, but he did look outstanding. Griffen, just looking at this call-up, do you think there's going to be changes coming to the defense?
I think absolutely. I think it's definitely necessary and it's something that needs to happen. I think with the recent struggle they've had to start the season, this was inevitable. People have been talking about this for the past few days, even leading up to this recall, that, hey, Brännström is what the Canucks need. And if they do that and he performs well, that's an early sign that they already won this Tucker Pullman trade right off the bat. Just clearing up the cap space alone made them win it. But now that they have a guy that is coming up who is young, who has a lot of potential, he's lighting the AHL on fire already early on in his AHL career over there in Abbotsford. And now if he gets called up to Vancouver, he gives this defense the spark they need. I think Vancouver is just at the point where, hey, we need anything to just get this car jump started and get this bus rolling. And I think this is the right move to head in that direction towards doing so.
And I mean, the biggest thing going into this offseason, we did talk a lot about how the Canucks needed a puck mover. Looking at Brännström, 3 assists in 2 games, you can see that he played over 70 games 2 seasons in a row in the NHL with the Ottawa Senators. The former 15th overall pick in 2017 is no shy of having NHL experience. This is a player that can come up, put up points, produce on the power play on even strength. And the biggest thing with Brännström is he would fit in great with some of these defensemen. I mean, when we're looking at what Daily Faceoff has right now, see Noah Juulsen and Derek Forbort. Desharnais is currently scratched, but getting a guy like Desharnais back into the right-handed spot, getting a guy like Brännström in, do you think this could spark something on the third line and maybe even see Brännström promoted to the power play?
I think it would be very nice. I think with Forbort and Desharnais and Juulsen, that third pairing is very much up in the air. We're going to see a lot of rotation. We heard from Tocchet that he is very much open to rotating a lot of guys in. And because Forbort and Juulsen just haven't performed very well as Vinny Desharnais, I know Vinny's going to be coming back and trying to improve his game a lot more. He spoke to the media and was very open about being a healthy scratch. So I think he's in a right mentality where he's going to be one of those guys who eventually finds his way on that third pairing. But again, with Brännström, I think it's going to be one of those things. Maybe put him on the power play. He's fast, he's nimble, so he could bring a little bit of spark to an offensive power play unit where Quinn Hughes and Filip Hronek won't have to do as much when they're already going to be getting a lot of ice time. So I think that's the key here. If Brännström can take a little bit of relief off of Quinn Hughes and Filip Hronek so they're not getting overworked, that's going to be, I think, one of his biggest assets if they put him on the power play. But again, in that third unit, I think that third pairing definitely needs something to get going because they've just been getting cardio at this point and they've been on the ice for a lot of bad things that have happened.
And I mean, when you're looking at these guys, I briefly showed this a second ago, but you're having guys in your top 6, obviously, or top 4 defensemen that you're not going to scratch. But when it comes to Desharnais, a guy like Forbort, and a guy like Juulsen, I think we can see these guys rotating in quickly. Maybe we get a Desharnais and a Brännström third pairing to add some puck-moving defense to that third pairing. You can switch it up, and you can even go a guy like Forbort and Juulsen in a back-to-back game in any situation. But with the recent struggles with the Canucks, with how they've been playing, I don't think they can go into another game with this defensive core. I think they do need to make some tweaks. Yes, it's early on in the season. Yes, we're not in panic mode. If we're 10 games in and this is where we stand, yes, start panicking. But what's your guys' thoughts on the Brännström call-up? Do you think he's going to fit in on this Canucks team, or do you think he's just getting called up with some insurance? Let us know down in the comments. We'll hop straight into the second topic, which is multiple changes incoming. Now with this, it is leading into the fact of just last game. We've seen that last few games, the past 3 games, last season and this season, the Canucks have been struggling with their big 4 in Pettersson, Boeser, Miller, and Hughes. Last season, in the first 3 games, they had 6 goals, 13 assists for 19 points. This season, 3 goals, 5 assists for 18 points. This comes from Jeff Patterson. Shout out to him on Twitter. Go check out his stuff. But when you do look at this, 5 of those 8 came in the first period of this season. Griffen, looking at the big 4 kind of struggle, do you think this is something where they overexceeded last season, or do you think it's just with the new faces on the team, it's going to take them a while to gel?
Definitely think it's the latter. I know the numbers do speak for themselves. They put up half the production. And if you think about it, even less than half the production, considering that most of the points this season that they've produced came in that first period of the season. And then since then, the offense has just kind of fizzled out and just almost basically died. So I think this is a case where I think it's more so that they have a lot of new faces. The top six especially has changed so much, and as far as the top four forwards as well, having to mesh with those guys, I think that's going to be something where there's going to have to be some growing pains. There's going to be a lot of that, and I think once they get clicking, it's going to be fine. But again, like you said, we're not in panic mode yet. It's still early in the season. It is the first road trip though, so you do want to kind of set some sort of tone and build some sort of chemistry. Hopefully that we can rally and get the troops going and then win these next 3 games, or at least finish the road trip with a 500 road record at 2-2. But I think this is going to be one of those things where once this gets going, once they get the chemistry, once DeBrusk starts clicking, once Heinen starts clicking, once all these guys get going, I think PD is definitely in need of some sort of motivation of something. I think Tocchet's going to light a fire up under his butt, and we're going to see hopefully a different PD come soon, because I don't think how much more Tocchet's going to be able to take of this, and he's going to start expecting more of his other top guys as well. JC Miller is somebody, he sat out most of the preseason and he hasn't done too much. We need to see him get going. We need to see Brock Boeser just start putting the team on his back, unfortunately, because when he's able to do that, we win hockey games.
And the biggest thing is, looking at and just talking about the PD thing, we do see Jeff say on Twitter as well, no Pettersson in the six-man formation for the Canucks with the empty net. This was a game against Tampa, which they did admittedly lose. But the biggest thing is, you can see that Tocchet kind of looked at this and said, hey, PD, you're not performing. We're not going to go with you with the empty net, with the man advantage. So things are going to change. This is a matter of maybe we see a guy like Pettersson between a guy like Höglander and a guy like Garland to have two spark plugs next to him. Maybe we see a guy like JT Miller play with a guy like Jake DeBrusk and Brock Boeser. Looking at these lines, Griffin, if you had to shift around two players, what would you really do with them?
I would put Höglander on the top line. I would drop Baines down to the third line, maybe make them a little swap, because eventually Dakota Joshua is going to be back. And when he's back, it's going to be a completely different team. Maybe you move Höglander and keep him up on that first line so that Joshua takes his regularly scheduled spot. So I think that could be something that gets Boeser and Miller going. Or you put him on that second line with PD. I think him and PD have a really good chemistry and really good rapport. And I think that did do some wonders last season when they played together. So if they can put them together on a line, I think him, PD, and DeBrusk would also be a great fit. So I think Höglander, especially early on this season, he's shown the most potential and the most flashes of productivity that we've seen out of most of these Canucks. So I think putting him up there, especially when Dakota Joshua will eventually be coming back, have him start to establish himself within those top two lines would be very key. So I think that's something that Vancouver should definitely do going forward, because I think this young guy is a very good key to getting PD going.
And the biggest thing is, if the Canucks do need to recall some players, I mean, we've seen Brännström called up, but they still have a lot of guys in the AHL. A guy like Jonathan Lekermack, has looked good. You can work your way down this list. I won't speak on everyone, but there are names that the Canucks can call back up if they want to get some new faces in this lineup. Listen, Canucks fans, we're not stressed out. You guys shouldn't be stressed out as well. This is the first 3 games of the regular season. We have half a new team. It feels like there's nothing to worry about. I don't want to speak about them, but we do know the Edmonton Oilers slid at the beginning of the year and made it to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. So anything is possible. Don't panic unless we're at Game 10, and we're still talking about this. But what's your guys' thoughts on the possible line changes? What's your thoughts on Brännström coming up? Leave a comment down below, and speaking of comment, we'll hop in everyone's favorite topic, which is comments of the day. The comment comes from Heinrich, and he says, I love that you guys update us on everything. You're definitely my go-to for Canucks news. Love watching you guys from my TV with my computer hooked up to a HDMI. Shout out to you, and if you guys want to go down and leave a comment, you can be featured on the next episode of Canucks Digest. Let's comment of the day. Way down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We're trying to reach 5,000, which we're only 5 away from, and I know you guys can get us there. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Griffin. Take care.